Hi friends, welcome back again. Today I saw this news on Temasek, very sensationalized headlines. Temasek walked into market minefield last quarter with new bets on Chinese education stocks, DD Global before July slump. What were you thinking when you see headlines like this? Some of you might be thinking, did Temasek really screw up? After all, companies like TAL Education dropped more than 90% and Temasek invested tens of millions into the company. Will huge losses like this lead to a lower dividend payment from Temasek to government? Will this lead to a lower CPF payout? Let's take a look at the Bloomberg's news.
No one saw it coming and no one suddenly didn't see that it would spread so wide from tech to education to gaming. And like Steve said, you have to be careful. The risks are getting higher. If you take a look at the 13F filings to the SEC, you see that Temasek has been buying up Chinese shares. In terms of DD Global, it bought it for the first time. Before that clampdown, it added to shares of Baidu as well as online companies. It simply highlights just how challenging it is to be investing in a market where you want to see big returns, but now you have to deal with uncertainties to do with regulation. I just want to point out just how badly Temasek has been hit by the clampdown. If you take a look at its shares in DD, it's lost about 42% of the value there. It's lost about 35% in Pinduoduo. But where it is hit the most is education, online education, the likes of New Oriental Education, TEL Education. It's lost in excess of 70+%. So that gives you the magnitude of how Temasek has been hit. Though in my earlier conversations with Temasek, it says it takes a longer term approach. It sees beyond regulations. So we have to wait and see how much risk appetite there is for Temasek to hang on to these investments.
Well, Bloomberg showed this table of Temasek stakes into various Chinese companies. I saw this screenshot was circulating around in a couple of Telegram groups as well. If you are worrying that Temasek screwed up big time and this is a huge disaster, let me tell you this, relax. Temasek is going to be fine. Their returns are going to be fine. Don't worry too much. Let's take a detailed look and scrutinize the numbers. First thing I noticed was that out of 6 companies that Bloomberg is showing, only DD investment is huge, almost $500 million there. After applying the percentage loss since 30th of June, Temasek has lost close to 200 millions. The rest are actually small investment ranging from 3 millions to 34 millions. I have added 1 column to calculate the loss amount. If you're adding up all of them, the total loss is $246 million. $246 million sounds like a huge figure, isn't it? Yes, for us retail investor, this is huge. But Temasek portfolio is also huge. In Temasek website, you can see that their total assets is $381 billion. This is Sing dollars. Convert that to US dollar, you get roughly 280 billion US dollars. Take the 246 millions loss divided by total assets of 280 billion dollars, you get a number that is less than 0.1%. This is why I told you earlier that you can relax. The total loss from DD, TAL Education and so on are really a negligible amount. These are the small bets that Temasek made with potential for outsized returns. But things do not always turn out well and taking losses on some of the investments are common, so don't have to be surprised. Well, that is the good news. Now I will share a bad news. In the Bloomberg video I shared earlier, they mentioned that the numbers were taken from the 13F filing. So I went to check the data and noticed that actually in terms of China exposure, DD exposure is not the largest one. The largest exposure came from Alibaba with total amount of $2.64 billion. Since 30th of June, Alibaba has dropped 18.9%. If you multiply it with the total exposure, you'll notice that Temasek has lost 500 millions from Baba alone. This is double the amount of losses for the 6 companies including DD, TAL Education and others. Question is why Bloomberg only show part of the information? My own guess is that companies like DD and TAL Education are the companies that suffer the worst crackdown from China and their percentage of losses are much higher. Hence they make a more dramatic stories as compared to boring Alibaba. By the way, please don't freak out about the 500 million losses. If you are going to say Temasek is stupid for owning Alibaba shares, at least you need to be aware that Temasek is one of the early investors of Alibaba even prior to the IPO. The reason I'm making a video out of this is not to tell you whether Temasek is good or bad in their investment. I think they have a long track record to prove their capability. Last month, they just posted a 24.5% one-year returns for the 12 months ended March 31st. I'm sharing this because some news could be misleading us into believing that these losses from DD and TAL Education is so big that even Bloomberg is reporting it. So before you judge Temasek based on this headline, you may look into the 13F filings and calculate the numbers yourself to see the impact. 0.1% is nothing, and this is my own view. That's all I have for today. See you in the next one. Cheers!